Bartholomew Town, brought to you in part by the University of Rhode Island Online, Navigant Credit Union, Half Street Group, and Newport Film.
Bartholomew Town.
Obviously, a moment right now where, there's an unlimited amount of issues that we could begin with. I guess the best way to look at it is now we're, about 6 months into Trump 2.0. Congressman, your general takeaway, 36,000-foot view, as you see the country and as you see the United States is standing globally after this period.
Well, when the Trump administration began, I started with the mantra of I will work across party lines whenever it's good for Rhode Island, but I'll also stand up to extremism whenever necessary. And 6 months in, unfortunately, I think we've seen an administration that has leaned in toward extremism rather than productivity and trying to get things done that will help people. And in many ways, President Trump has lied to his supporters and lied to the American people. He said that he would focus on lowering costs. Instead, he's put in place crushing tariffs that are raising costs for consumers. He said that he would end the wars in Ukraine and Middle East, and instead, those wars are still raging and innocent people are dying. He said that he would fight corruption. Instead, he's leading the most corrupt administration in history. And I would also say that even on immigration, where I spend a lot of time as a member of the Homeland Security Committee, he lied to the American people. He promised that he would go after the worst of the worst, people who've committed violent crimes in the country, and instead, most of the people who have been locked up and deported are people who've committed no crimes at all, including in some cases children and U.S. citizens. Look, I still think for the sake of our democracy, we need to be able to work with people we disagree with, and I'll do that whenever it's good for Rhode Island, but I will also continue to call out extremism whenever warranted, and unfortunately, we've seen a lot of that from the Trump administration so far this year.
Speaking in terms of your capacity on Homeland Security and just in general right now, ICE detentions, look, it's actually tough to get an exact number of ICE activity or get a real total sense of what's happening on the ground, because it oftentimes goes undetected or is only spotlighted or highlighted when an arrest or detention is made. But there's definitely things happening in Rhode Island with respect to ICE. And there was a call yesterday for court hearings in an immigration capacity and perhaps even beyond to be moved to a virtual COVID-like format so as to avoid these encounters at courthouses with ICE officials. Do you think that type of thing is appropriate? And is that the direction that we should be heading in terms of, actual governmental apparatus sort of intervening to keep a break there?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. I would say, again, this is yet another example of how Donald Trump has lied to the American people, right? Again, like the promise was to go after the worst of the worst, violent criminals, gang members, etc. And by the way, if that's what he was actually doing, then I think that's something that most people would support, including me. Instead, by their own data, by the administration's own data, more than 70% of the people detained by ICE under the Trump administration are people who have no criminal record at all. And some of the stories have been absolutely horrifying. They are locking up and deporting children with cancer who are undergoing treatment, people who enter the country legally, people who are here as legal visa holders, green card holders. I met last week with a young man whose father was a landscaper who had been in the country for 30 years. He was tackled violently in the street and detained by ICE for weeks. This landscaper, has 3 sons, all of whom are United States Marines. And that family deserves better. And the example that you raised, I think, is a very good one. By having ICE agents stalk people at their court hearings, by definition, they are going after people who are trying to do the right thing, who are showing up to their court dates, who are trying to achieve legal status the legal way. And so, again, not only is what the Trump administration doing unfair and really terrible, but it's a betrayal of all Americans, because again, we were told that they were going to be going after the worst of the worst. They have not been doing that.
What's been your read, or what have you heard from business owners and just folks on the ground here in Rhode Island? Because I mean, look, it's the worst kept secret in the world that a lot of businesses here in Rhode Island and beyond are sustained by the labor of undocumented immigrants. Have you heard from any business owners that maybe, maybe they were even, I mean, we've heard from on the radio and so on and so forth, business owners that say, hey, look, I voted for Trump. I wasn't expecting this. And guess what? Now, not only on a human level, but also on an economic level, this is having a negative impact on me. Have you heard from people like that?
Yes, absolutely. And I've been hearing it on two issues. I've been hearing it on immigration, and I've also been hearing it on tariffs. Again, we've got a big hospitality industry in Rhode Island, as you know, restaurant industry, hotel industry. They do not understand, and I don't think anyone understands, why the president is putting a tax on food. Food that's not even made in the United States, that can't be made in the United States, bananas and coffee and pineapples. Like, why are we taxing that under Trump's tariffs? I hear the same thing from manufacturers in Rhode Island. They're seeing their costs go up and their orders fall. And yes, absolutely on immigration as well. Again, I know this is a divisive issue, but if you talk to most people, there's actually broad consensus among the American people and among Rhode Islanders about what our immigration policy should be, right? Like, our immigration policy should be one where everybody has due process, where people who commit violent crimes, who are not citizens, lose the right to be in the United States. Most people agree with that. Most people agree, however, that there needs to be due process, there needs to be a hearing, there needs to be a process to adjudicate whether someone's guilty or not. And then most people agree that for everybody else, the people who are just here working hard, trying to make a living and contributing to the economy, there should be a path for them to earn legal status. Like, everything that I just said is something that has 70% support or more, right? Like, there's broad consensus here. And the administration, the Trump administration, unfortunately, under Stephen Miller and Tom Homan, are taking a much more radical and destructive course that's going to tear families apart, but also, to your point, hurt employers, hurt business, hurt our economy, and hurt our standing as a country.
Looking at the international stage right now, obviously the two major conflicts that get the most attention are Russia, Ukraine, and what's happening on the ground in Gaza in particular, but broadly speaking in Israel and the surrounding region. Um, just sort of your overview right now. I think the thing that is most germane in an immediate sense is the starvation that we're seeing on the ground in Gaza. It's hard to even imagine that anybody could be comfortable with that. Even President Trump breaking with Benjamin Netanyahu earlier this week on that issue and basically saying, yeah, we're seeing starvation. Is it the United States' role to immediately do everything possible to break that starvation at
Yes.
minimum?
Yes, absolutely. Break the starvation and also bring about an end to the conflict. This has been going on for too long. And listen, I say this as a member of Congress from Rhode Island with Jewish heritage, someone who understands that it was Hamas that initiated this war with horrible atrocities on October 7th, 2023. But the actions of the Netanyahu government are just unconscionable and cannot continue. The systematic targeting of civilians throughout the war, the blockade of aid, including food and medicine, into Gaza, it has to stop. It has to stop. And we need to be putting whatever pressure we can on the Netanyahu government to, number one, allow aid into Gaza unimpeded, food and medicine into Gaza. Number two, present a realistic pathway for ending the conflict. Again, this has gone on for a long time now. Many, many innocent people's lives have been taken. And the Netanyahu government, unfortunately, has been acting more in its political self-interest than for the cause of peace. And the United States should put whatever pressure we can on the Netanyahu government to change course.
Yeah, political and potentially legal, but on the political front, we don't have to get into a deep dive on Israeli governmental structure, but it's coalition based. And look,
Yep.
in order for Netanyahu to remain in power, he needs the most extremist, frankly, parties that have been flirting with banishment from the Knesset and beyond. And so you have an extremist agenda happening there that is definitely at play. And you wonder, at what point does humanity actually triumph over politics? It's an age-old question. It doesn't seem to be happening right now, though, on that matter.
Yeah, and this has been the fundamental problem from the beginning of the war, right? Which is that both sides, the Netanyahu government on the Israeli side, and then Hamas on, well, I wouldn't call Hamas on the Palestinian side, but Hamas,
Right.
As the other belligerent, neither side has wanted to stop fighting, and that has been a persistent challenge. It's hard to end a war when both sides want to keep fighting. But the United States should be using whatever pressure we can muster in order to convince both sides that the time has come for peace. And in the meantime, we have to do everything we can to pressure Israel to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza without restriction.
Looking at 2026 right now, there are some really bad polling numbers when it comes to Democrats. And I think right now, more than any time that I can remember, Democrats just don't seem to have any kind of unified direction or orientation about what the party stands for. And some of that is obviously good. It's good to have a diversity of perspectives. Certainly what's happening in New York with Zoran Mandami is interesting. And certainly what's happening in other parts of the country. I won't give specific examples, but it is the typical Y10. At the same time, it seems like that's confusing to the vast majority of those who have responded to recent surveys and polls. So from your vantage point, what does the Democratic Party need to do to get on message and get focused so that in 2026, potentially we have a congressional flip and perhaps a positioning for a 2028 run that can, whatever comes after Trump and the Republican Party, can actually win?
So I think two things. Number one, when it comes to fighting back against the Trump administration's extremism, we have to be tough. We have to use every opportunity that we have, whether it's government funding deadlines, filibusters in the Senate, use every tool at our disposal to block the extreme parts of the Trump agenda that are hurting people. And we can't be hesitant or half-hearted about it. We have to be all in, because people's rights are being violated and people's livelihoods.
Bartholomew Town.
Are you ready to take the next step in your career? At URI Online, they offer business and leadership-focused programs designed to fit your life. Whether your goal is to advance your career in fields like public administration, supply chain management, or training and development, their online programs provide the flexibility you need with a high-quality education you deserve. Learn more from experienced faculty and collaborate with a network of professionals, all from the comfort of your home or wherever life takes you. Visit uri.edu/online to explore programs and start building your future today. URI Online. Learn anywhere with us. Newport Film is celebrating 15 years of outdoor documentary film screenings. Every Thursday through August 28th, new critically acclaimed documentaries curated from Sundance, South by Southwest, and Tribeca screen at ever-changing, iconic outdoor locations across Newport and Aquidneck Island. A beloved summer tradition. Pack your blanket and lawn chair. Arrive early for free popcorn, live music, and filmmaker conversations. Head to newportfilm.com for all details. As Rhode Island's first ever member-owned credit union, Navigant Credit Union has been a staple in the local business community for more than 108 years. Yeah. Today, Navigant is a $3.4 billion institution serving more than 136,000 members across 25 physical branch locations. But since its founding in 1915, the mission has never changed. Navigant Credit Union's team of financial professionals have remained committed to improving the financial well-being of the families, businesses, and communities they serve across Rhode Island. Learn more at navigantcu.com. Half Street Group brings a new generation's perspective to leadership communications, strategic public relations, and digital marketing. Half Street helps organizations and leaders take control of their own stories and manage their reputations. They get results for their clients by focusing on audience, message, and culture, and by leveraging their decade-long relationship with media and opinion leaders in the Ocean State and throughout New England. Join me and Half Street Group founder and president Mike Rea for a conversation every month about news of the day, the hottest media analysis, and a look behind the scenes at how impactful leaders drive conversations. Learn more at halfstreetgroup.com.
Being threatened. Number two, we also need a positive, proactive agenda that is about more than just opposing Trump. And I've had multiple conversations with our Democratic leadership in the House about this, about how I believe we need to come out with a proactive policy agenda for what we are going to do for the American people sooner rather than later. And my belief is that that policy should really center the middle class, because nobody who I talk to in Rhode Island who, you know, makes say between 50 and 150,000 a year, no one in that sort of middle class, 60% of our population, thinks that either party is looking out for them. And that presents a real opportunity, like a political opportunity for Democrats, by the way, that the middle class is sort of up for grabs. It's well understood that Democrats push policies that help the marginalized in our society. You know, we're for raising the minimum wage, we're for expanding access to health insurance, and that's all great, and we should continue to support those things. But the reality is, most people already make more than minimum wage, and most people already have health insurance. It may not be great health insurance, but they already have it. And so much of what they've been hearing from the Democratic Party sound like good things, but good things for someone else, not for the average middle-class family who makes too much to be on government programs, but not enough to really get by. On the flip side, the Republicans and Donald Trump have reverted to their old pattern of looking out for the super wealthy. They just passed an enormous $4 trillion tax cut that almost entirely goes to the wealthy and big corporations. The corruption that's coming out of the White House, selling cryptocurrency out of the Oval Office, all of that is really putting a bad taste in people's mouths. And so I think to the average middle class American and voter, they're looking at the two parties and they're saying, you know, Democrats are only focused on the people at the bottom, so to speak. Republicans are only focused at the people at the top. No one's looking out for me. And that gives us a real opportunity. So what I'd like to see us do, in addition to fighting back against the extremism from the administration, is let's put forward an agenda that really focuses on the middle class and those working hard to join it. Tax relief for the middle class, including lowering the tariffs that are hurting, or eliminating the tariffs on food and energy that are hurting working people. A real agenda on housing, an agenda on healthcare that focuses not just on restoring Medicaid, but on lowering healthcare costs for everyone. Like, let's really focus the middle class and those working hard to join it in our agenda, because that's first of all, it's the right thing to do. And second of all, that is a lot of voters out there who right now feel like neither party is speaking to them at all.
Yeah, I think that is really, really important, and something that hasn't been discussed in practical terms in a long time. And it's fundamental that you want to see government reflecting your best interests. It's as obvious a statement as can be, and it seems like right now we've got to break down systemically, at least in opinion, and I think for sure from on the ground and from my own vantage point, in reality on a lot of issues. So I completely agree. Congressman Magaziner, thanks so much for your time as always, and we'll catch up soon. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Bartholomew Town is a truly independent news organization, accredited by Lion, the leading consortium of independent news providers in the country. And we certainly thank our sponsors, Newport Film, the University of Rhode Island Online, Navigant Credit Union, Half Street Group, and many others who have helped sustain our journalism. And we also thank our listeners who have supported us at patreon.com/BartholomewTown, or you can click the little heart wherever you're listening right now. For as little as $3 per month, you too can help sustain independent journalism in Rhode Island.